Later on they gave up. They said one head monk, the one that below the patriarchs. So he wrote that first, but later on this under wicked layman, even he could not write, but he said out some verses so that some officer did take his speech to write that verse on the wall, and so the master recognized him. And later that night he passed the road. But later on he went to live with the hunters in the forest for 16 years before he went out to become a monk and teach. So again, his teaching is so remarkable. And when you study about Zen tradition, you see he talks much about and and his body is still intact. Remember, in Buddhism, in the past, they didn't use any kind of chemical. They didn't use any kind of, I don't know, things that preserve the body. Especially for this kind of enlightened monks, they don't need that kind of chemical or whichever to preserve their body, but still intact. Why? Because when our mind appears, our body will be pure. Logically.
Say it again.
When our mind appears, our body will be pure.
Okay.
In Vietnam, we have 2 monks who preserve their body intact and keep the body intact for more than 300 years. In Tibet, in Taiwan, most of Buddhist country, there are some monks that after they pass away, they leave their physical body like him. If you visit Guangzhou, or that southern China, and his temple, you see his body is still intact. Of course, now they put some kind of I don't know how they preserve the body, but they just keep the body intact. But the main thing is their body is still preserved by themselves.
It's impressive because Taiwan is very moist.
Yeah.
A lot of moisture.
No. Taiwan,
Warm and moist.
Yeah, in tropical country, you know that. In Vietnam, Taiwan, in Burma and so forth, monks they left the body intact. Even the immediate temperature over there.
Is he one of the sites for the pilgrimage?
Yeah, this is very famous one. If you visit Taiwan, if have time, I will compile the list of them, an image of them, so you can see. Okay. Yeah. And okay, let's just move on. Sorry, I want to combine the class. I want to make up Monday class with today, so that we can move on, because this subject is still interesting. Okay. So let's move on. Dogen, Dick is here. Dogen again, he is a Japanese monk. He went to study with many Japanese masters in Japan, but he could not satisfy with their teaching, so he went to China to study Zen tradition, Soto tradition, and later on he went back to Japan to spread that Zen tradition for the Japanese Buddhist people. And actually, his sect is one of the early sects that appear in America in the early 20th century, when people start to learn about Buddhism. They start with one of the sects. Okay, so it's very popular. Okay, Kevin. Oh, Kevin's here.
With
Yeah, Ajahn Chah, what do you have here?
Ajahn Chah, he was born in 1918, and he lived with his family. He went to the monastery about the age of 6 for 3 years, where he learned how to read and write. And then he went back to his family to help on the farm. And at the age of 20, he went back in to become a monk. And since probably my favorite thing that I read about him is the fact that he spent 7 years living in caves and jungles with cobras and tigers to face his fear of death, because he felt like it was holding him back. He wanted to learn the true meaning of life, so he faced death every day so that he could truly appreciate and learn about life. and then he went and basically moved to the woods by his hometown, and so many people came to study with him and to learn from him, it ended up becoming like a giant monastery. And he traveled everywhere, from Britain to Canada to America, and when he died in 1992, he literally had sets still that went by his teachings around the world.
Thank you. Has anyone of you lived in the forest before? No.
For how long?
I don't know.
For a while.
Oh, for how long? Couple days, couple weeks?
A week or two, like 2 weeks.
By yourself?
Oh no,
In the
it's in
jungle?
the army. There's.
Army, okay. I'm talking about yourself.
Oh no.
No. Okay, in the jungle.
Yeah.
Already at the training, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's so good.
That and in the desert, and they put us
We
everywhere.
have to that type of top training, right? But for ladies, no way, right?
Yeah, they make you go to. I had to go to.
Really?
No shower for 45 days.
Oh, really? By yourself or with the other
With
people?
the military.
Oh, really? Oh, you,
I was in the military, in the army. Yeah.
but with a lot of people, you want
Right.
people yourself.
Yeah.
I'm talking about yourself. It's not easy. Well, of course, here in, especially in the core area, there's not many dangers or wild animals, right? Well, snake or so. There's not much like in tropical countries. All kind of wild animals, and it's not easy to handle. Right? That's why people respect him. That's why, like you say, he like to challenge with that because he faces that every day. You mentioned that you go out there too cold, right? And even in the summer, you take care of the tick. Right? And only small insect, they bother us. Not talking about what to do with the wild animal like snake, lion, and so forth. So, yes.
Have you ever been in the jungle?
Not the jungle, but I stay. It's just like you can say semi-forest. We have a farm, what we call wallet farms in California, and in the summer I have to wear to hide wood because whenever I step out, rattlesnake everywhere.
Snakes?
Yeah, rattlesnake. You know rattlesnake?
Yeah.
And at night, you would hear all kinds of strange sound. We have the mountain lion and so forth that used to come down to catch the cows. I lived there for a year by myself in a small house. Yeah, so this is a bit challenging. Anyway, so that's the training for Buddhist monk, and he's really famous one because of his straightforward teaching. And plus, that many American people follow him. And this one here, James Meadow. At first, he was a he worked for Peace Corps in Thailand, and later on he became a Buddhist monk to follow him. Actually, he's one of my masters too. One of my masters, the one who transmitted the precept, the monk precept for me at my master temple. And now there's many of his Westerner students or disciples build many different Buddhist monasteries around the world. Yeah. So that's why he's so famous one. Okay, the next one. So today I'd just like to give you this kind of information for your knowledge, and later we study more about my higher tradition. Okay, Suyun, Amy, what do you have?
He was the most influential, one of the most influential masters of the past 2 centuries,
Yeah.
and the most important in modern Chinese history. But he wasn't as well known in the West as Japanese in, but his teachings have persisted within Asia. He's still a major figure in Pure Land Buddhism, East Asia and outside China. He influences his teachings the strongest throughout Southeast Asia, Vietnam, and Myanmar, and the Americas. But he was born, I forget what year it was.
Yeah.
It was 1850, I'm believing. And his mom died in childbirth, and then his dad left to another city. So his grandmother was there with him, and he found out about Buddhism when she died, but her wish was for him to finish his family's legacy, or to go on with his family's legacy and his uncles, and marry these two wives from two different families, the Tayin family and the Italian family. And when he was 14, he soon realized he didn't want to do that. He tried to become a Buddhist monk, and he started meditation, and his father demanded that he do Taoism instead. And he found that it wasn't as fulfilling, and he felt he was not going to reach the deeper truths of existence. So he tried to get away and travel, and his uncle stopped him, and they forced him to marry the two ladies, which he never consummated the marriage or anything. He said he stayed truthful to his body and everything, and never defiled it. But he later left his wives and his family, and he had taught them about Buddhism, and he started on his journey, and I believe he was like in his 60s before he actually became a Buddhist monk. But he went on a 12-week session to meditate with a bunch of other people, and he didn't have the money to get on this is one of his stories, he didn't have the money to get on the ferry, so they left without him. And he was walking along the river's edge. I guess he was going to walk there on foot, and he fell in the river, bobbing hopelessly for a day and a night, and then was caught in a fisher's net. He was carried to a nearby temple where he was received and treated for his injuries. Feeling ill, nevertheless, he returned to the temple and asked Gao Ming whether, he was asked by Gao Ming if he would participate in the upcoming weeks of meditation, and he politely declined, never telling him that he was sick. And in the temple they had rules, and if you were invited there to meditate and you didn't, then you were going to be punished. And he was beaten with a wooden ruler, which made him worse. But for the next several days, he sat in continuous meditation, and in his autobiography, he says that he forgot all about his body, and 20 days later, my illness vanished completely. From that moment, with my thoughts entirely wiped out, my practice took effect throughout the day and night. My steps were as swift as flying through the air. But pretty much he healed himself through meditation, and he became a Buddhist monk almost soon after that.
Okay, let me make a correction. Let me go back to the story and make a correction. Okay, anyway, according to his biography, he lived up to 119 and 120.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and he's my grandmaster. So like she mentioned, his father, who was an officer, that wanted him to carry on the tradition, but he didn't like to do so. So he sneaked out. Even he got married with the two ladies, but he didn't involve with sexual relationship with them much. So he left them to stay in the mountain, like Achacha, for a while. And later on, his father passed away. So he did all kind of practice, and he went here and there to seek the teaching from many teachers, many masters. Plus, he did all kind of practice. And later on in his life, he did what we call 3-step, 1 bow. You don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. All right. Let me show you this. Okay, this is China map, right? Can you see? Okay, here is Shanghai, right? You know Shanghai, right? And Ningbo is the town is just nearby Shanghai. He did, okay, 3 steps. Let's say you walk 1, 2, 3, bow down. Let's go 3 steps, 1 bow. From here to the what do you call the High Peak Mountain, to here.
How many miles?
I don't know.
Looks like a
And it
lot.
took him more than 3 years throughout
Wow.
summer, winter, fall, and so forth. With that kind of dedication, he tried to transfer his marriage to his parents. Yeah, that's what dedicated. That's what he did, and later on he became one of the greatest Zen master. Let me correct the story you mentioned. When he went to that temple, Karmin temple, or this is the Zen monastery, the abbot asked him to lead the meditation section, not to meditate. That's a different story because he's so famous and British. So, because he's so sick, remember that story? He fell down to the river, and so he refused because of that monastery rules. If someone invited to lead the meditation session, but they refused, they would be punished. So that's why he was beaten up by Buddhist. And later on, when he did meditation, he even forsake or let go of his body.
So they beat him with a wooden stick even though they don't believe in doing that?
What's that?
I'm confused.
You confused?
I thought they didn't like to put harm on other people and stuff.
Okay, that's confusion, right?
Mhm.
Now let me put it this way. When we study about this one, what we call Lin Chi, and this Sim, Lin Chi here, this is one of the great Zen master in Zen tradition. This monk, he has a style. Whenever a student comes, he either yell or hit them. Of course, not many monks did that, but this is this style. And remember, it's, of course, Eastern and Western tradition is quite different.
But the yelling and the hitting was constructive.
That's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point. That's the way how to awake the student. Let's say, if you have children, right, and they're so lazy in the morning to go to school, you may yell to them, "Hey, wake up!" Is that right? Of course, not even. It's childhood, so
I don't think any form of hitting can be constructive.
okay, that's yeah. In the West, it's quite different, but in the East, that's normal. Yeah. So in the army, right? You got I don't know whether you got hit or got yelled a lot of times, right?
They weren't allowed to hit anymore.
No.
No.
In the past, they did, right?
Yeah, like when our parents.
Well, I mean,
were
not a
and stuff like
basic,
that.
I mean.
Yeah.
You see this in the past, but of course it's not now. Yeah, of course.
They're allowed to yell though.
Okay, no. Anyway, so again, later on we talk about it. So he's one of the famous masters, and even later on, when the Chinese communists took over the whole China,
Yeah, that's what.
and what happened? They beat him to death. Twice, not once. And so somehow he attained that kind of samadhi at that moment, and he had connection with Maitreya Bodhisattva. And he went up there and said, "Oh, I'd like to stay here," but Maitreya Bodhisattva said, "Sorry, not your time, go down there." But you failed to come out.
So did they beat him to death?
But he still survived. He still survived when he was about 110.
How did he meditate his body to heal?
Past was the version of meditation. Now they use mindfulness in healing body stuff. That's why I'm going to teach mindfulness and its multidisciplinary application. I just have the discussion with some professor from all the programs. Anyway, you will see the mind have the will, have the power to heal the body. If you know how to use it. Okay?
He's nominated for president too.
Yeah, he's one of the first Chinese Buddhist president, but he didn't accept that horse. He just accepted to be honored in that organization. Okay, let's move on. The next one, the last one, who did the taking hand. Okay, what do you find about him?
Okay, he's actually.
I'm sorry that I skipped Dalai Lama. First of all, you right? Well, that's good. Let's go ahead to talk about what you have.
Okay, he's actually a present-day Vietnamese monk. He's still alive. I chose him really just because no one had, but I've also read a few of his books. He was born in Vietnam, and at the age of 16, he joined a Buddhist temple called Tu Hayu, and followed the master Dina. He also traveled to the United States to do studies in comparative religion, and actually was exiled from Vietnam. So ended up living here and teaching at Cornell and Columbia. He's also very famous for like his nonviolent peace efforts. During the Vietnam War, he tried to aid monks with peaceful practices and promoting peace. And then he was actually allowed to go back in, I believe, the early 2000s. So he made a trip back to Vietnam.
Actually, if you study Buddhism, this name come across a lot. Yeah, he wrote many books, probably more than 50 books about Buddhism. This is a remarkable person. During Vietnam War, he organized the youth corps that went to battlefield to help the civilians. But somehow he was crucified by both sides, Viet Cong and South Vietnam army. When two persons are fighting, and you want to stop their fighting, they may accuse you or they may hit you too. Right? So it's not easy. And later on, he was nominated by Martin Luther King as a Nobel Peace Prize, and right now he's really famous in this leadership in the West. With his style of teaching is so adaptable in the Western realms. Yeah. So he has several Buddhist monasteries in the state. Plus, there's a group that follow his style, but they are lay people in New York. There's some of his style practice. So again, his style of teaching is very liberal and understandable for lay people. Yes.
I noticed part of his name is similar to your name.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Not similar here. Not similar. Yeah. Let me talk about this one. Most of all Buddhist monks are known have this one like last name. Okay, this is translated from Shakya, the last name of the Buddha. Okay, Thick, and we have the first name, so forth. Okay. All right, let's just move on to Dalai Lama. Who is this? Yeah, please. What do you have?
The Dalai Lama, high priest of the Yellow Hat
Yes.
school of Tibetan Buddhism. His name is taken from the words for ocean and teacher in Mongolian and Tibetan, respectively. Dalai Lama is a reincarnation, the being who represents the Bodhisattva of compassion.
That's Bodhisattva. I learned Bodhisattva. I just mentioned recently. That they believe that this was one of his reincarnation. Yeah.
As well as being the de facto leader of the Yellow Hat school of Buddhism, the Dalai Lama is a widely revered figure both within Buddhism and in other religious views and secular views. He is very widely respected. There have been 14 Dalai Lamas, the first being in the 1400s. The current Dalai Lama is in exile because in 1959, when there's an uprising by the Tibetans against the Chinese, whenever they were occupying, and that uprising failed. So the Dalai Lama and a lot of other prominent Tibetans sought refuge in India, and that's what they're doing now. The current Dalai Lama believes that he's probably the last Dalai Lama, but he said it's up to the followers of the Buddhist tradition whether the title of Dalai Lama will continue on or not.
Yeah, okay, so let me some of what he said, right? So he's 41. Starting from Kalupa tradition. And he was the so again, according to the Tibetan tradition, this was one of the incarnation of that Bodhisattva, Mahavajra Bodhisattva. That's the belief of the faith. And that's me. Last May, when he came here, some of you, most of you know, right? Yeah, we had the special meeting with him. So I'm one of the translators of the
Is that you?
You don't recognize me?
Yeah.
Sure?
Yeah.
Really? Okay, you want me to play for 1 minute?
That's good. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
This teaching we can accept because it sound basis existence. This Buddhist teaching we cannot accept because it goes against such existence. So that's, I think, something quite unique. Then our compassion not only includes human being, but entire sentient being. The Buddhist, particularly Buddhists who follow the Sanskrit tradition.
Okay, that's okay. You said a lot of time you can find. So I'm not look like you.
It's you. It's you.
Okay. Yes.
So like the Dalai Lama, like he's a prominent figure in Tibetan Buddhism. Is he also one in the Mahayan Buddhism or like the Vietnamese?
Right, I told you many times. Up to now, in the Mahavajra tradition, we respect him as a Pope, but not the one like because each of our Buddhist tradition run operate by ourselves independently. You understand that? So we don't have any central authority. But in general, people respect him as a Pope. Right? Yes?
How come your robe is yellow there and it's brown here?
That's different? I will explain to you later on. Okay, okay, why? Okay, now that's all for us. We still have only 10 or 12 minutes left to discuss about the topic that we missed. Okay. So again, you see that they are the great figures in Buddhist traditions. Okay. And later on, we study Mahayana and Theravada tradition, we see more of them. And let's just talk about this briefly. Theravada monastery communities, Mahayana monastery communities. Let me summarize for you to understand.